You seem fine. How many times have you heard that? Or told yourself the same? You're going to work. You're getting things done. You laugh at the right moments. But inside, you feel like you're drowning. This is the crisis of silent suffering. It hides behind routines, polite smiles, and productivity. It wears the mask of normal, and it's more common than most of us dare to admit. The high-functioning wound. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It doesn't look like panic. It looks like answering emails, folding laundry, showing up. It's what psychologists call high-functioning depression, and it's dangerously invisible. You don't miss deadlines. You're not in bed all day. But the joy is gone. The lightness is gone. You're existing, not living. A study from the Journal of Affective Disorders found that people with high-functioning depression often delay seeking help because they don't look sick enough. They perform well, so their pain is dismissed by others and by themselves. That's the trap. When you're too functional to be noticed, you're often too exhausted to ask for help. The mask that becomes a prison. Maybe you've learned to keep it all together. Maybe that's how you survived. Growing up, maybe emotions weren't safe. Maybe you were praised for being strong, for not complaining, for being the reliable one. So you learned to bury the pain, to hide the tears, to swallow the fear. But masks get heavy. And the longer we wear them, the more we forget we're wearing anything at all. You scroll through social media. Everyone seems fine. You feel guilty for struggling. You compare your invisible pain to someone else's curated image. And once again, you say nothing. It could be worse. The silencer of pain. One of the most toxic thoughts we carry is, I shouldn't feel this way. Others have it worse. That belief doesn't make the pain smaller. It makes the silence louder. Pain doesn't compete. It doesn't need a scoreboard. If your heart hurts, it deserves to be heard, even if you can't explain why. Emotional pain is like a bruise. Just because it's under the skin doesn't mean it's not real, and ignoring it doesn't make it heal. When survival becomes suppression, survival mode is useful for a while. It gets you through crises. It helps you cope. But when survival becomes a way of life, you stop noticing what you're missing. The ability to feel joy, to connect deeply, to rest without guilt. Many people live in a constant state of low-level distress, not bad enough to ask for help, but not well enough to feel alive. That's where the crisis begins, in the space between fine and falling apart. You are not alone, even if it feels that way. If you're functioning on the outside and falling apart on the inside, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are carrying more than anyone can see. And I see you. The truth is, we've normalized hiding pain. We praise people for being resilient, but ignore the cost of that resilience. But what if being fine isn't the goal? What if healing means being honest with yourself, with someone you trust? What if the first step is simply naming it? There's a moment right before you open up, when something inside you whispers, don't. They have enough on their plate. And so, you say, I'm fine, again, and again, and again. This is one of the most common reasons people suffer in silence. Not because they don't feel the pain, but because they've convinced themselves their pain doesn't deserve space. I don't want to bother anyone. It sounds noble, even kind. But let's be honest, this is fear, wearing the mask of selflessness. You fear being a burden. You fear being judged. You fear hearing, it's not that bad, because you've already said that to yourself 1,000 times. But when you swallow your pain to protect others, you don't protect anyone. You only deepen the isolation. Psychologist Dr. Kristen Neff, known for her work on self-compassion, says, "We wouldn't tell a friend to keep quiet and suffer alone. So why do we do that to ourselves? The childhood roots of silence. For many of us, this silence began early. Maybe your emotions were met with, "Don't be dramatic. Stop crying. Go to your room." Or maybe no one noticed at all. So you learned your feelings are too much. You are too much, or not enough to be worth comforting. This becomes your internal script. Don't make waves. Don't be a problem. Stay small. Now, even when someone asks, "Are you okay?" you hesitate. You smile. You lie. Because somewhere along the way, you confused honesty with burden. The cost of not being a burden. Let's talk about what this silence costs us. When we don't speak up, we disconnect from people who might actually care. We miss the chance to be truly seen and held. We live behind emotional glass, watching life happen, but never really participating. One study from the American Journal of Psychiatry found that feelings of being a burden were one of the strongest predictors of suicidal ideation, even more than depression itself. Let that sink in. The belief that I'm a burden can be more dangerous than the pain itself. The healing power of connection. Here's the truth. Being honest about your pain is not a burden. It's a bridge. It's a way back to yourself and a way into real connection with others. When someone shares their pain with you, you don't see them as a burden. You feel honored, trusted, closer. So why don't we believe the same about ourselves? Who benefits from your silence? Ask yourself, who told you your feelings were too much? And why did you believe them? Your silence didn't start with you. It started with systems, families, cultures that taught you to hide, to minimize, to tough it out. But healing isn't about toughness. It's about truth. And your truth matters. A new belief. I deserve to be heard. Let's rewrite the script. From, "I don't want to bother anyone," to, "I deserve support just like anyone else." From, "They'll think I'm weak," to, "It's brave to be real." From, "I can't ask for help," to, "I am allowed to need people." You don't have to explain everything. You don't have to share it all at once. But you can start by being honest, even with yourself. That's how healing begins. You might not talk about the pain. You might not even think about it anymore. But your body hasn't forgotten. That tension in your neck, the tightness in your chest, the fatigue that never really goes away. This is how unspoken pain survives. Not in your thoughts, but in your body. Emotional pain doesn't just disappear. When we suppress emotions, they don't vanish. They go underground, into our muscles, into our gut, into our sleep. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, author of The Body Keeps the Score, explains, trauma is not just an event that happened. It is also the imprint left by that experience on the mind, brain, and body. What we don't express, we begin to embody. Anxiety that comes out of nowhere. Have you ever had a panic attack, out of the blue? Felt short of breath, dizzy, heart racing, without any clear trigger? Often, those moments are not random. They're the body's way of releasing what the mind has buried. Suppressed grief, unspoken anger, old fears we tried to ignore. Emotional energy doesn't dissolve. It accumulates until the body can't hold it anymore. The silent language of the body, chronic back pain, migraines, IBS, skin flare-ups. These aren't always just medical issues. Sometimes they're emotional stories written in physical form. Science calls this somatization, when psychological distress shows up in the body. A study published in Psychosomatic Medicine showed that people with repressed emotions are significantly more likely to experience unexplained physical symptoms, because when there's no safe space to feel, the body becomes the only space left. Tips that isn't rest. Your body may lie down, but your nervous system stays alert. You wake up tired. Your dreams are chaotic. You grind your teeth at night. This isn't laziness or weakness. It's the residue of unprocessed stress. When emotional weight is never released, Rest stops feeling restorative. Sleep becomes survival. When fine has a price. You keep showing up. You say, "I'm fine." You keep pushing forward, but your body is keeping score. Headaches every Sunday night, stomach aches before phone calls, tight shoulders that never relax. These are not random, they are signals, messages, and like all messages, they get louder when ignored. Listening is the first step to healing. Your body is not your enemy. It's your storyteller. It tells you when something needs attention, not to punish you, but to protect you. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" ask, "What is my body trying to say?" Maybe it's asking for safety, for truth, for softness. You don't have to carry this alone. Healing doesn't always start in the mind. Sometimes it starts with the breath, with gentle movement, with rest that isn't earned, but allowed. Therapies like somatic experiencing, EMDR, and trauma-informed yoga are helping people reconnect with their bodies, not as battlegrounds, but as sacred homes. You are allowed to feel, to rest, to release. Your body deserves that. You do too. We tell ourselves that staying silent keeps the peace, that keeping it all in is better than making things uncomfortable, that if we just keep moving, we'll be okay. But silence has a price, and over time, it adds up. The slow disconnection from life. When you don't speak your truth, you start to feel like a stranger in your own life. You're there, but not really there. You smile, but you don't feel joy. You show up, but you feel disconnected. You try to engage, but something inside feels far away. This is emotional shutdown. It's the brain's way of protecting you, but it comes at a cost. You stop feeling fully alive. Loneliness in a room full of people. You might be surrounded by friends, family, co-workers, and still feel alone. Because it's not about being near people. It's about being known. And when no one knows what you're really carrying, when no one sees behind the mask, you start to feel invisible. Loneliness isn't just the absence of company, it's the absence of connection. And silence deepens that gap, losing sight of who you are. When you constantly filter your feelings, you lose track of what's real for you. You stop asking, "What do I need?" and start asking, "What do they expect from me?" You say yes when you mean no. You pretend to agree to avoid conflict. You downplay your pain so others don't feel uncomfortable. And slowly, quietly, you lose yourself. Not all at once, but in small, daily silences. The creativity, passion, and energy that fade. Suppressing your truth doesn't just numb the pain, it numbs everything. Your spark, your curiosity, your sense of possibility. When you live in emotional survival mode, your brain prioritizes safety over growth. That means less creativity, less joy, less meaning. A study in Frontiers in Psychology found that emotional suppression significantly decreases cognitive flexibility and creative thinking. Translation: hiding your truth makes life smaller. Relationships that stay surface level. You can't build intimacy without honesty. And when you're always the strong one, the okay one, the one who doesn't need anything, you teach others to stop checking in. They stop asking, you stop offering, and the relationship stays shallow. Silence becomes a wall, not because others don't care, but because they've never seen what's behind it. True connection requires vulnerability, and that's terrifying, but essential. You were made for more than coping. You weren't born to just get through the day. You were made to love, to connect, to laugh deeply, to create, to rest, to feel wonder. But chronic emotional silence makes life flat. It turns color into grayscale. It turns maybe into, what's the point? You deserve a life that feels like yours, not just one that looks good from the outside. It's not too late to reconnect. You don't have to share everything with everyone, but you can start small. Say what you feel, even if your voice shakes, even if it's messy. Ask for what you need, even if you're not sure how. even if no one ever taught you how. Connection begins with one honest moment. And from that moment, everything can begin to shift. There's a voice inside you. Maybe it's faint. Maybe it's buried. Maybe it's hoarse from all the times it tried to speak but got shut down. But it's still there, and it matters. Because healing doesn't begin with advice or with fixing. It begins with being heard. The lie we tell ourselves, I should handle this alone. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught, don't make it a big deal. Just be strong. Other people have it worse. So we internalized it. We became our own silencers. We turned self-reliance into isolation. But here's the truth. We're not meant to carry pain alone. We are wired for connection, for presence, for healing that happens when someone simply says, I hear you, I see you, I'm with you. Speaking the truth, even just to yourself. You don't have to share everything with the world. You don't even have to start with another person. Start with yourself. Write the words, say them out loud. Name what hurts. There is power in language, in giving form to the formless. As therapist and author Lori Gottlieb says, insight alone doesn't heal, but it's the beginning of the path. Naming the pain is how we begin to move through it, instead of around it. Asking for help is strength, not weakness. Let's be clear, vulnerability is not weakness. It's courage in its rawest form. To say I'm struggling in a world that rewards performance is an act of rebellion, of truth, of healing. Therapy, support groups, honest conversations. These aren't signs of defeat. They're signs that you're no longer willing to suffer in silence. You're choosing life, not just survival. You are not too much. You are not alone. Whatever you're feeling, you are not too broken. You are not too sensitive. You are not too late. You are human. And you are allowed to feel. You are allowed to need. You are allowed to change. Healing is messy. It's not linear. It's full of setbacks and slow progress. But it is real. And it starts with one choice: to stop hiding. The door opens with one honest word. You don't need a perfect speech. You just need one word of truth. Help. Hurting. Enough. From that word, a door opens. From that door, connection can enter. And from that connection, healing becomes possible. Not because your pain disappears, but because it no longer lives in the dark. You deserve to be heard. And maybe today is the day you begin. Maybe you've been holding it in for so long, you forgot what it feels like to be truly seen. Maybe you've convinced yourself that your pain isn't serious enough, that you're too strong to need help, or too late to change. But none of that is true. What's true is this: you are allowed to be honest. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to heal. This video might disappear in 48 hours, but your pain won't, unless you choose to do something different. You don't have to make a grand gesture. You just have to take one small step. Speak, write, reach, rest. Let your truth be more important than your image. Have you been hiding your pain behind "I'm fine"? Who could you be if you stopped pretending everything's okay? What would it feel like to speak one honest sentence today? Take a moment. Let these questions land. And if you feel called, answer them in the comments. You never know who your words might help. If this video spoke to something deep in you, don't let it pass without action. Subscribe for more content that helps you feel seen, understood, and supported. Share this video with someone who might be silently struggling. Comment below. What part of this resonated with you most? And tell us, where are you watching from? Let's build a space where no one has to heal alone.